tiger, iconic symbol of the wild, and an apex predator that we fear and admire. In our imaginations, they roam the jungle. But today, many tigers have never even seen the wild. The vast majority of them spend their lives in captivity. Princess is an American tiger, a distant relative of her wild ancestors. She doesn't even know how to hunt. Most tigers in America aren't found in zoos. They're privately owned. There are more than twice as many of them as the highly endangered wild tiger. This could change if new legislation is passed that would ban the private ownership and breeding of tigers. What are the issues surrounding captive tigers in America? And what does the future hold for their wild cousins? Tigers are one of the world's most popular animals. Everybody loves to see a tiger at the zoo. Even the scientists who work around them are impressed by their majesty. Ron Tilson is the senior conservation advisor at the Minnesota Zoo and a renowned expert on tigers. He spent many years tracking and studying them in the jungles of Asia.
My heart beats faster every time I see one. Yeah, there is, it's because they represent everything. They are the icon of Asian wilderness. They are the most powerful cat, the largest cat. They are, in my opinion, one of the most attractive cats. But it's also the fact that essentially we have evolved as a species with the tiger, and the tiger is one of the only animals on Earth that preys and eats people. And when a tiger looks at a human being, I think the tiger sees us for exactly what we are. We are nothing more than a piece of meat.
The tiger and the power it represents has always fascinated us. At the beginning of the 20th century, there were 100,000 tigers in the forests of Asia. The first tigers came to America as entertainers. Before zoos and circuses attempted to control their breeding, surplus animals found their way into private hands. Soon, everyone from the rich and famous to companies and sports teams wanted a piece of the big cat. For some Americans, like the character of Tony Montana in the movie Scarface, owning a tiger became a symbol of success. Martin Dins is a celebrity veterinarian and was one of the first to specialize in exotic animals. His talent and reputation led him to work for A-list stars like Michael Jackson and the magicians Siegfried and Roy. He witnessed firsthand the rise of the tiger population in America.
The tiger pet phenomenon became a trend, I would say, in the early 60s. We could be driving in Beverly Hills and see a person driving a convertible with a tiger sitting up in the back seat. Or people owning a Jaguar, a big Jaguar, driving around in their Jaguar with it. There were no import restrictions. There were no restrictions on the sale out of a pet shop of these kind of animals. You know, a little tiger cub is nice and cute, so people thought it would be fashionable. It was unique. They could show it off, and it was trendy then.
The pet tiger phenomenon may have existed briefly in other parts of the world, but it never had the dimensions it's taken on in America. In the 1970s, actress Tippi Hedren, the star of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, embarked on an unusual film project. She starred in the movie Roar, where actors and crew members rubbed shoulders with dozens of lions and tigers.
I can't believe we did all that we were foolish enough to do it. So many of us were hurt. you know, that it was, you know, insanity. It was truly insane here.
Tippi Hedren radically changed. She converted the Roar movie set into the Shambhala Preserve, a sanctuary for abused and neglected big cats. Her strong stance against private ownership has drawn attention to the issues facing captive and wild big cats. In the wild, tigers are threatened by habitat destruction and human encroachment. They've been hunted and poached for their skins. Most of all, they suffered from the illegal trade of their parts for use in traditional medicine. 97% of the species have been wiped out over the last 100 years. And with only 3,200 wild tigers left, they are facing a total crisis.
Well, just about everything has been tried, and just about everything has failed. Everyone is trying to think through how to go about making a future for tigers, and the bottom line is that we've failed in every example. There is no one place you can put your finger and say, aha, here's the magic formula on how to save tigers.
Tigers have been on the endangered species list since it was established. In 1973, it became illegal to import tigers born in the wild. So the tigers living in the United States today are American, born and raised. The population of captive tigers has been steadily growing. In the wild, a female spends a couple of years teaching her 3 or 4 cubs how to hunt and fend for themselves. But in captivity, she can breed every year. Today, most American tigers are privately owned, and some people still keep them as pets. Susanna Kukol and Scott Shoemaker live in the small town of Pahrump, Nevada, with their 6 tigers.
Hi, baby. I know. Mama's girl, huh?
If your definition of pet is something you throw food at and it's nice and docile, okay, then that's not a tiger.
That's my girl. That's my girl. Oh, that's my girl. In the cage, it's just fun. Outside, that's when it's like, okay, we are going for the walk, we are gonna go for the training. So outside is like you are in school. In the cage, it's, okay, it's their place, it's their home. Oh, somebody's being cute. So basically, that's the golden rule. You don't push them into any serious training in the cage, and you never ever turn the back on a tiger.
But not all captive tigers are pets or collector's items. Some private owners see themselves as conservationists and believe America is the tiger's Noah's Ark. Patty Perry runs her own Center for Conservation and Education in Southern California. She is also the vice president of the Feline Conservation Federation, the largest organization promoting private ownership and breeding of captive exotic cats in the United States.
It's far from perfect, but in our world today, we have to have captive breeders, private captive breeders. We have to have private educators, because the zoos can't do it all. You don't get that kind of contact and that kind of one-on-one at a zoo. They have been poached, they have been hunted for their pelts and for their internal organs, and we have very, very low populations. This is Prana, the standard. The snow white is Vishnu. This is my little red-headed stepchild, and this is the one, the golden tabby. He's gonna be our biggest tiger here. The tigers is very much an emotional bond. They respond emotionally. I got them all as babies, so I bottle raised them. So there is that connection. You know, they identify me as, you know, mom with the milk. Who wants to feed a tiger? I'll kind of start on this end and give you guys a chance. I want you to hold the stick. Just hold the stick and put it right through there. Come and have a bite. Okay, who's next? These cats, being 6 generations, you know, captive bred and their, you know, their primary contact being human beings are not going to be the same as a cat that's in the wild. It's a completely different animal. But will they ever be domesticated? No. They're wild animals.
The wild nature of tigers is seen even among those in captivity. In 2003, famous Las Vegas entertainer Roy Horn was mauled during a performance by one of his beloved tigers.
The tiger just grabs him, like, looks to be right around here in this area, grabs him, like, just locks on him, picks him up, and just drags him.
We just heard all this commotion behind the curtain, and you could hear.
It reminded everyone that even trained tigers are unpredictable and dangerous.
For 40 years, those guys did 2 to 3 shows a day. In the beginning, 7 days a week. That's a lot of exposure to a tiger. If you fall down in front of one of these big cats, and especially with tigers, they're gonna carry you off, regardless of what your relationship is with them.
He's got a thing for me, Patty.
I know, he does.
In my career as a zoological veterinarian, I've worked the gamut of facilities and owners that have tigers. There's the zoos, there's the circuses, there's the private collectors. And years ago, there were a lot more of the illicit owners of these animals. But I've worked for all of them, and I don't discriminate. I have done the best I can to discourage breeding by unqualified individuals. But I took an oath, and is it my business to say, no, I'm not going to treat this tiger because you own it privately? That's on the other side of medicine for me.
Lisa Ann Takansnick is an attorney in Washington, D.C. Her organization, the Wildcat Conservation Legal Aid Society, is trying to determine the exact number of privately owned tigers.
Hey, I'm calling to follow up with you on the tiger research. You were going to finalize some of the numbers for which state are you still working on? What are we looking at? Alabama?
The actual number of tigers in the United States is still a matter of speculation. But the enforcement of laws already in place is problematic. Legislation varies from state to state. At the federal level, the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Interior both enforce different laws affecting tigers. There is no single government body responsible for tiger welfare.
Well, we don't really know how many tigers are held captive in the United States. It's a very good question because estimates tend to go all over. Some say there's 5,000 cats in captivity, tigers. Some say there's up to 10. The problem with the numbering system is that the 2 federal agencies that are there to enforce our Endangered Species Act and the Animal Welfare Act don't know how many tigers are out there, which is very troubling because we need to get a handle on the number of cats.
As hard as it is to imagine, big cats can be found everywhere, even on the 5th floor of an apartment building in the heart of New York City, like on an October day in 2003.
This police video shows Ming, a full-grown 325-pound tiger, left home alone by its owner in Unit 5E of a Harlem apartment building.
If the number and the location of big cats is a source for concern, a larger concern might just be the irresponsible owners. Screening for them remains difficult. In 2005, near the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Moore Park, a stunning example of human-tiger conflict occurred.
I saw the tiger right there, just real slow, huge. He was about this high up to the fence.
Newly retired George Gross was the incident commander at the California Fish and Game Department. For more than 3 weeks, he chased a tiger on the loose in a residential area. He got no help from the cat's owner, and on a February morning, he had a difficult decision to make.
Basically, this was like a city living in fear for a month because